What's up, guys? I'm going to be going over the statistics of how well and how bad Roblox Dragon Ball Z Final Stand is holding up compared to other Roblox Dragon Ball games in 2024. And before I even get into this video, I just want to let y'all know that I'm kind of surprised that people are still playing Final Stand in 2024 for a Roblox game that hasn't been updated or hasn't had an actual update in over 2+ years and just has really no attention to it anymore from the developer Snake World. You would assume that the game would be dead. If I told you, hey, this Roblox game hasn't been updated over 2 years and the developer barely cares or barely even, talks about the game anymore, do you think if it's popular or not, or do you think people still play it? I'm probably going to bet my money that you're going to say that no one plays it, or if they do, it's not a lot. And that's exactly what Final Stand is. Final Stand gets about an average of 350 people during, the evening. That might go another 50 higher on the weekends, since Roblox's biggest age group is about like 6 to 10 years old. Roblox is filled with little kids, and that's like 90% of Roblox is little kids. So obviously they have schools to attend to, so they can't play Roblox at like 3 in the morning or like 10 in the morning. So once it hits about 3 in the afternoon, at least in America, that's when kids get out of school, and that's when they hop on Roblox. That's when Final Stand hits its peak or its prime during the day. It gets its average player count during the day after people get out of school. So it might be 350 to 400 on the weekend, but other than that, it's no more than 400. Now we're going to get into comparing Dragon Ball Z Final Stand to like other games, and the two that I'm going to pick are Dragon Soul and Z Fighter's Path to Power, which are the two Roblox Dragon Ball games that I've been uploading recently, or I do upload on my channel. Now, I'm going to compare Final Stand to Dragon Soul first, which, just to let you guys know, this is going to be a dramatic comparison because the fact that Dragon Soul statistically is the most popular Dragon Ball game on Roblox as of right now. I'm just doing this to show you how Final Stand is compared to one of, if not the most popular Dragon Ball Roblox game in 2024. Now, before I start comparing, I'm going to go ahead and go over the statistics of Final Stand, and I'm also going to explain the 3 categories that each game will be placed in to determine how well or how bad Final Stand is holding up compared to Dragon Soul and Path to Power. Now, the first category is going to be the amount of time in minutes that the average user plays that specific game. So for instance, if the average time played in Final Stand is 15 minutes, that means that the average person spends 15 minutes in one game or one server playing Final Stand. Now, the second category is going to be the amount of visits that certain game has received during a time period, which the time period is going to be the day that I make this video, which is May 18th, and the day that the game has reached its most visits during out the last 2 weeks. And the final third category is going to be the amount of total users that are playing that specific game at one time. For example, if there was 300 people playing Final Stand at one time, the average is going to be 300 players. We're going to start off with Final Stand and its average player count. And as you can see, as of yesterday, May 18th, the average was 339, which is not very good. And its max is also 500. So you're really not going to get past 500 players, whether it's during the day, whether, everybody's home. The peak for the past day has been 517, so it has not reached more than 517. So you're most likely not going to get more than 500 players playing Final Stand at once. In the past 2 weeks, Final Stand has reached a maximum of 623, which from this chart, this is actually from 2 weeks ago, of the average player count. During a lucky week, you can reach up to 600, but realistically, that's still not good. So obviously you could see that Final Stand is still somewhat holding up, although it has nowhere near as much players as it used to about 4 years ago when it was in its prime. It still has a decent fan base or still a decent community, whether it's super toxic or not, there's still people played, which is quite impressive for a game, like I said, hasn't been updated in over 2 years, and then has just no attention drawn to it from the developer Snake World. So now that we have talked about and went over Final Stand and how it's holding up to this day, we're gonna go ahead and compare it to statistically the #1 Roblox Dragon Ball game out there. So before we even get into the actual graphs and statistics of how well each game is doing comparing to each other, I want you guys just to look at these two images right here. Now this is just like an overall view of, information such as how long people play, the amount of total visits during the whole duration of the game, the rating of the dislike and like ratio, and then just the amount of players that play the game as of right now. And as you can see, Final Stand cannot even compare to the amount of people playing right now when I took this screenshot, which was last night, compared to people playing Dragon Soul. Now, although Final Stand has way more lifetime visits, which is the amount of total visits that the game has received throughout the whole duration of its lifetime, you do have to realize that Dragon Soul only came out about 3 years ago in December 2021, whereas Final Stand came out in freaking 2016. Do you know how long ago that is? I don't even know how long ago that is. Now we're gonna go ahead and compare how long the average session time is for each game, and as you can see the graph, Final Stand has like half at some points of the amount of time that people play Dragon Soul. So as of yesterday, there was a 6-minute more average time than it was for Final Stand. And honestly, this is a little bit disappointing for a game that has pretty much been good ever since it's released. It's been doing good in average player count and amount of attention that it's receiving. It's getting weekly updates, such a thing. So honestly, the fact that Final Stand is somewhat holding up to this game is kind of disappointing in my eyes. But if we do look back in the past 2 weeks, we do see that it gets no better for Final Stand. The fact that Final Stand's peak was only 2 minutes more average time span, it's just not good. When it comes to visits, Dragon Soul just absolutely dominates Final Stand. As you can see, it has like 4 times the amount of visits than Final Stand. And honestly, this should be expected for a game that's statistically #1. Final Stand just cannot keep up with these new games coming out, especially once these new games get attention, which we will get into the next game that we compare. And just to let y'all know, the peak for the past 2 weeks of Final Stand was about double than the average it is for yesterday. And honestly, that's still nothing compared to Dragon Soul. As you can see from the graph, Dragon Soul only grew from the past 2 weeks. So like, even comparing its peak of Final Stand, it just cannot even fathom to Dragon Soul when it comes to visits. And then when we compare Dragon Soul to Final Stand when it comes to the average total players playing at a specific time, Dragon Soul is like more than 4 times more popular in every aspect when it comes to maximum players at one sitting, the average players at one sitting, and then the minimum players at one sitting. Final Stand cannot compare to Dragon Soul whatsoever. So now we're going to compare Final Stand to a more relevant state, which is Z Fighter's Path to Power. Now, whether you're familiar with my channel or not, recently I have been posting Path to Power videos, and just to recap of what Path to Power is, it's pretty much just a remake of Final Stand. It's not an exact copy. There is more details, there's more effort put in the game when it comes to design, graphics. There is one small flaw, which is it is way more difficult. So if you do like the grinding and you do like, stronger NPCs, definitely give it a try. And also the combat mechanic, or the combat system is not the best. Final Stand does have that, but other than that, it is a good game that you should definitely try out. I would recommend, and I'll leave it down in the description, just like the rest of these games. Now I'm going to go ahead and give a brief comparison, just like I did with Dragon Soul and Final Stand. As you can see, there is a slightly more player count when it comes to Final Stand and Path to Power, but just to let you guys know, Path to Power literally came out a couple months ago from what I can recall. Now, in the picture, it does say that it released in 2022, but that is not the case. So previously, Path to Power was called Final Hope, and Final Hope was shut down because of just some issues with the developing team, and it was just not a good time to be creating a game such like that. So it was closed for about a year, which I actually gave up on Final Hope, and it just let me down. So I honestly thought I just wasted some Robux at a game that I actually did enjoy. It was kind of like Final Stand, where I got hooked as soon as I started playing it. I had people to play with, and then the game was just wiped out. It got closed, it went private, and then we got little to no updates from the developers of the game. And so I just moved on back to Final Stand. So realistically, Z Fighter's Path to Power has not been out for quite a long time yet. So just let that be known that Path to Power is a new, more recently published Roblox game. So you do have to kind of excuse it if it's, less popular or does not have much visits. It's just the fact of how well Final Stand is holding up against other more relevant Dragon Ball games. And I feel like Path to Power would be a good comparison because it's brand new. And now, as you can see, Path to Power only has about half the visits of Final Stand, at least in the past 2 days. Now, I'm not sure exactly if this is a bad thing because Path to Power is a more recent game that has been published. So honestly, the fact that it's somewhat holding up or is holding up to a game that's been out for quite a long time and a game that's, more relevant than Path to Power, I would say it's probably a 1-up for Path to Power. And then here's just the example of how close Path to Power got to Final Stand. This is the peak for the past week or two of the amount of visits that Path to Power has received in a single day. And honestly, it just got a lot closer to Final Stand. So, Path to Power is doing pretty good. Final Stand, not so much. This is more negatives. When I say something's good about Path to Power, that means something's bad about Final Stand. So the fact that this brand new game is getting close to a legend is quite sad for Final Stand, but honestly, you can't really do much. You can't expect much out of Final Stand when it comes to popularity now because of the fact that it's just rarely getting attention. Now, when it comes to the session length, which is the amount of time played in one session or one server, Path to Power does hold up its own compared to Final Stand. As you can see, it does have about 8 more minutes than Final Stand, which is not a whole lot, but you could just tell that Path to Power is kind of related to Final Stand when it comes to the amount of time that people stick to the game. Here is the maximum within the past week or two for Path to Power. As you can see, it nearly doubled in time played in one session. So you can tell that Path to Power is growing, it's fluctuating, has better days than others, but just the fact that it's growing so rapidly and it's just taking over Final Stand. Honestly, I feel like within a year, if the remaster for Final Stand does not bring back the people that originally played this game, Path to Power will take over. Now, if you look at the charts right here, you can see that Final Stand does have more of an average, has a more maximum, it has a higher minimum of amount of players playing in a single day. And honestly, I guess you should just expect this for a game that's been known for over 7 years now, compared to a game that hasn't been even out for about, no more than like 6 months. But honestly, the fact that Path to Power has at least half of the average players in a single day, it's honestly quite crazy. 1-up for Final Stand, but honestly, this is also not good. You shouldn't celebrate too hard if you're a Final Stand fan, because of the fact that a brand new game is already just as good as a game that's already been out for quite a long time. So this is like a 50-50 for Final Stand, honestly. So pretty much to recap what I've just said this whole video, this past 14 minutes, conclusion is that Final Stand is still somewhat alive, although it's nowhere near how it was in its prime about 3-4 years ago. It's still somewhat holding up, and I'm honestly quite impressed.
it's come a long way. I'm still a fan of Final Stand. I definitely do not play the game nearly as much, or I definitely don't enjoy the game nearly as much. I have thought several times of just completely giving up on the game and quitting, but I keep thriving because I know that people enjoy watching Final Stand content. And I understand that, you know, people don't have the resources or don't know the information of the remaster that's been promised to us for several years now. And I think that's the only reason why people are still thriving to play the game. Like I said before earlier in the video, the only people that play this game still are brand new people that have never played the game before, or it's just people that still have hope. And honestly, I feel like majority of those people are the people that still have hope, including me. I can assure you that I would be excited for this remaster as long as it's not complete dog. But from what I've seen, it does look like a little bit of Path to Power's quality, which Path to Power is like, you know, it depends what you're interested to. It depends what you're looking for in a Roblox game, especially for Dragon Ball. Honestly, neither of these games are going to get as close as graphics like Dragon Ball Nexus, which I believe is like the best looking Dragon Ball game out there, hands down. But honestly, these games are definitely one of the best and definitely have the highest potential on Roblox. The whole point of this video is that Final Stand is still surviving. Now, I will guarantee you that within a year, if the remaster does not come out or it does not satisfy the people that played, Final Stand will die.